On the 8th of November 2016, the Honourable Prime Minister, on behalf of the government, had announced that the high denominational currency of rupees 500 and 1,000, subject to the exceptions which were carved out, had ceased to be a legal tender. Now, there were various rationales and reasons why the government came to this conclusion. This action was taken under Section 26(2) of the RBI Act, under which the Central Board of the Reserve Bank of India can make a recommendation to the government, and after consultation with the Central Board, the Government of India takes a particular decision. The obvious intention was that we have seen the vices of large quantums of cash currency operating in the system. And compared to what's happening in the rest of the world, the volume of cash currency in India was extraordinarily large. Cash currency in India was almost 12.2% of India's GDP, which is extraordinarily high. Now, this leads to a large number of transactions in cash, which necessarily involves evasion of taxes and therefore a shadow economy or a parallel economy coming into existence. This also enables and facilitates crime. This also has the impact of being a facilitator as far as fake currency is concerned, and also several kinds of anti-national offences like terrorism, etc., survive on the strength of cash currency. Cash currency also creates an increased temptation for corruption in a society. And the object was that we must move towards a greater digitalized economy, compress the extent of cash component in the economy itself, and therefore free the economy to the extent possible from these vices that I have mentioned. Now, the period under which it ceased to be a legal tender was from 8th of November 2016 till the 30th of November 2016. The Prime Minister had also announced that on such terms and conditions, this period would be extended to facilitate certain category of cases itself, which the RBI independently has announced in the case of either the non-resident Indians who were living abroad or even Indian residents who were travelling abroad during that period, for which a window has been opened itself. Now, this having taken place, the next logical consequence of this is that the RBI's commitment under Section 34(1) of the RBI Act, in order to pay to the holder of that currency once that period is over, shall cease to exist. Additionally, under Section 26(1) of the RBI Act, the guarantee given by the Government of India with regard to the payment of that amount, the guarantee also gets extinguished and it ceases to exist. It is therefore necessary that a parliamentary legislation to this effect be brought. I may mention that on two earlier occasions in 1946 and 1978, where similar steps had been taken, in the very first instance itself, a parliamentary legislation had been brought, either through an ordinance and subsequent ratification by Parliament. No, because there is a power under Section 26(2) also. That's also a legal power. So this time it has been done in two stages. That is, under Section 26(2), it ceases to be a legal tender, and now the extinguishment of the currency and the liability itself has to take place. This ordinance has been brought in view of this urgency in order to enable these things to happen and also permit that grace period. Once that period is over, except for limited purposes of research and historical value for which somebody can keep a limited amount of currency, which is mentioned in the legislation, holding the currency itself would be an offence. And the reason for making it an offence is, and the reason for extinguishing it, that once it ceases to be a legal tender, you cannot allow a parallel currency which has ceased to be a legal tender to operate in the market. And it is for this reason that holding of that currency beyond the grace period itself will also amount to an offence, and nobody can hold it beyond that permissible limit, which is required really for historical purposes or for collectors or for some research purposes that people want. This is the rationale behind this ordinance. With these few observations, I commend this ordinance and this bill to the Honourable House for acceptance.
Thank you.
मल्लिकार्जुन जी कह रहे थे कि कांग्रेस की कृपा है कि अब भी लोकतंत्र बचा है और आप प्रधानमंत्री बन पाए। वाह, क्या शेर सुनाया।